Okay, I thought it was time they ought to do another video. It's been a long time since we put the last one on. There has been progress made, but not a huge amount. We've been suffering a few cash flow problems, and as I've said several times before, this is a low budget exercise in theory. Although a few of the things that we bought recently have been a bit expensive. The front end, I don't think there's much changed on that, suspension wise, etc. I suppose the main thing here, I think the last video, the fuel tank which we had made was sitting in here, but as I said, we're not allowed to have that in the passenger compartment, or a compartment within the passenger compartment, even if it's screened off. That's part of the IVA rules, and I think the SVA rules previously as well. So what we've done is we've made a new tank, fabricated that ourselves, which sits nicely in there. It moves it forward. That's where the battery used to live. So what we've had to do is move the battery forward. We had to get a slightly slimmer battery and sit that down here in front of the fuel tank, which is quite good because with this vehicle the weight's heavily biased to the back, so we've actually moved the fuel cell or the fuel tank and the battery further forward to balance the weight out a little bit. It's a steel tank because we haven't really got a decent enough welder, a MIG welder or a TIG welder, or the skills needed to fabricate aluminium, so that's steel. There's a rule about the size of the filler, so we had to put a reducer in here and machine this cap on the lathe, which was a bit scary, cutting that thread. So we've had to put a reducer inside the tank there, and again it's all about the not being able to put the wrong fuel in it. So get that back on. That's sorted now. It's about 5.5 gallon tank, so we're thinking we should be alright for, say this engine does 30 miles to the gallon in a standard road car. If we were on the track we should get 10 miles to the gallon, so at least 50 miles, so sort of 20 laps, 25 laps of an average circuit. That should be alright. The next thing was we weren't happy with the pedals. There was too much of a gap between the throttle pedal and the brake and clutch pedals. So what we've done, the gap was actually in terms of this being too far over there, or these pedals were much further back here. We also didn't like the strength of the pedals. They were a single stem, a single bit of plate, and they were quite flexy, so we decided we'd make our own up. I think it's a bit of a false economy actually. If you're going for a cheapo pedal box off eBay, it all seems great, but what we've had to do with this, we've had to brace it, stiffen it, modify it. We've had to put a separate, the IVA test won't allow you to have a bias, a working bias on the pedal, on the brake pedal, even with a split system down here. So we've had to put a semi-permanent bias on that, so if need be we could change it later or adapt it later. So we started with the brake pedal and made this rather nifty one with a dual plate and these tubes in between, which I think looks quite nice. And then we thought we'd replicate that on the clutch as well, so that's that one. They're a hell of a lot sturdier than before. Made a new actuator down there. So there's not an awful lot left of the original pedal box at all. It's all been modified, and we're even talking about modifying this throttle pedal for a roller design, which we had on the previous incarnation of the vehicle. Make an aluminium roller for that. Machine throttle stop there, little stop we made up out of alley, that's nice. Moving to the centre of the car. In the previous video we'd got the centre section mocked up and we didn't like it. We thought it looked too flat and too boring, to have some interest. So what we've actually done is we've made this area and decided to put the dash. So that's going to be like a scoop or a bulge, if you like, in what you could call the bonnet or the cowl. And then this bar here we split, and now it angles upwards, so we get more of an interesting profile to it. It also gives us a lot more room for a dashboard, which is in marine ply at the minute. It's cut out for the dash which we bought. That was very expensive. far too much in my opinion for what you get, but there you go. You need all your various indicators and dials and stuff, so we've got to have that one in there. So these are quite nifty, these fasteners that we made. Obviously the dash isn't going to stay wood, it's going to be covered. What we did is we've got some studding or bolts, and then we've machined the head off, put them through a stainless steel washer with 2 holes in, so they're screwed in to the wood. Obviously on the inside you can unbolt them without the whole thing turning around, because once this is padded and it's got either vinyl or leather over the top, you're not going to be able to get to the heads of the bolts. So I thought that was quite nifty. I suppose the main addition is the roll cage. In the previous videos we did have 2 hoops, but with the pipe bender that we've got, we were never satisfied with them. We could never get them right. It was crinkling the tubing, so we've actually had the front and rear section made separately by a company in Sheffield. Didn't do a bad job with it. It's not great. It needed quite a bit of adjustment from the sizing that we actually gave to him. It was the pillars, both the main hoop and the front hoop were cocked over to one side, so we had to do quite a bit of adjustment to get it right. And then we machined out these centre sections, or these joining pieces. I'm quite pleased with that now. It's only just tacked in at the minute. One of the next jobs is to actually strip the whole thing down and start welding, doing all the welds that are underneath, and the vertical welds. Get a better job, but I think it looks a lot better now. What we're working on at the moment is finishing this cage off. We've just made these brackets here. The idea is, obviously the mid-engine we have a little bit of a problem with where to put the harnesses, so we're actually going to wrap the harnesses around this bit, this bar, which we needed to bracket to either side, and that's supported by an upright tube which we've added to the roll cage, and that'll just be tidied up on the outside with a thin plate. This is all 3mm mild steel, welded 4-inch brackets, so should be very, very strong. Stainless steel pins made this bar, and the fittings only in loose at the minute, so that should be alright. The idea is that we can just whip this bar out with just 2 bolts, and then the engine will lift through the gap. That's why it's a bolt-in piece. And also, obviously, we can thread the race harnesses over the top there, and that'll give us a nice round surface for them to bite onto, and they'll go through the holes in the seat there. The other thing we've done is we've added these rear arch, or the framework that's going to support the rear arches. I think last time it didn't have anything on it, so that took quite a bit of forming. And then these side pods, obviously we'll clad all that in aluminium. It should give quite a nice shape. We did it originally so the bodywork was just going to curve straight over, but then we thought this area here was a bit bare, so we've actually put a spoiler design in there, just incorporated that, so that again will all be wrapped in bodywork. So it is coming along a little bit better now, but a little bit quicker than it has for some months. We're going to have a week off in the summer, and hopefully get quite a bit more done. We've got all the aluminium for the bodywork there. There isn't too many pieces really to buy. We've bought all the lights, but I'll show you them in another video. Front and rear lights. We need mirrors. We've got to have a centre mirror and 2 side mirrors, but the roll cage actually gives us some nice sort of mounting locations, so we can mount the centre mirror somewhere in here, and then these arms that we didn't have before, we can mount side mirrors on. It may not look brilliant, but previously we were going to have struggled if we mounted them somewhere in this area to actually see over the back with the engine bay being higher, so it does solve one little problem, that. So coming along, I'll try and not leave it as long before I do another video. Cheers.